Welcome to the Solopreneur Academy Podcast. This is a podcast for entrepreneurs who want to make more impact and income in less time. I'm your host, Megan, and throughout each episode, you'll learn how to create the lifestyle and legacy you want as you grow. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Solopreneur Academy Podcast. Today, we are going to talk about how to succeed faster within your business, which I'm going to say this is a bit of a bait and switch title because in order to succeed faster, you have to fail better. So I'm going to be talking all about the reasons why our brain resists failure and how to pivot that mindset quickly so that then you can actually succeed faster within your business. And then how to use my data versus drama framework to help you to grow within your business and actually learn based on kind of creating a very objective problem-solving tool instead of a very subjective emotional problem-solving tool. So this is going to be an episode that I think is going to be insanely helpful for you. It is the third episode in a bunch of general life coaching topics that I have. And for you guys within this podcast episode, if you like what you're hearing and want some of the graphics that I describe, please go to the show notes and download the worksheet that goes along with this episode. And it's going to help you to follow along and create your own productivity success cycle, we're going to call it. So for you, first and foremost, you want to understand why your brain is so resistant to failure. The reason why this is so important is within your business, a lot of your business is trial and evaluate. We need to test different things in a very strategic and logical manner in order for you to know what works, and then you can succeed faster from making adaptations and changes to your approach that then lead you to creating more successes within your business. However, the biggest thing that I see between the people who are successful and the people who struggle with taking and applying relentless action to grow and succeed is this failure intolerance. And I want to talk to you about this because it's really, really important for you to understand that sometimes the people that are the most successful within business are not the people who might be the most talented. It might not be the people who have the most certifications. It might not be the quote unquote best service providers that are out there. Sometimes it's the people who are just willing to try and show up, do it wrong, learn from it, get it right, and then keep moving. So if that is the differentiator between people who are really successful in business and people who are not, we want to understand how you can change your self-concept to be focused on failing, learning, and growing as quickly as possible to grow within your business. So if that is the case, the people who are the most successful take the most relentless action, learn from it, grow, and change things so they can succeed faster. Why are people so scared of failure? And unfortunately, if you were in the United States and were in our school system prior to 2016-ish, which I literally graduated from college in 2016, just to give you frame of reference, we had a school system that was very failure adverse previously. Things have shifted. Obviously, I used to be a teacher, so things have changed so much since we were in school. But if you were in the United States school system specifically, we had a very punitive view on failure within our business, within our school system, in order to create really effective worker bees and productive workers within our society. If you failed or got answers wrong, it was seen in a very negative view, and you were actually punished. You could go down grade levels. There were negative consequences that happened from trial and failure. We since have learned that with that kind of a punitive educational society, that we actually created people that were so scared of failure and tolerance that it created a lot of people who are perfectionists. And it also created people who are very change averse, failure averse, and had a very high failure intolerance that were the people who actually got ahead. So if you did well in school, if you did well in business, those things were actually things that rewarded you and moved you further in the school system and within a traditional career. So your brain, up until this point, has been rewarded for perfectionism. It has been rewarded for avoiding failure. And in business, you literally have to unlearn all of that and become somebody who is extremely just willing to try and evaluate and learn and grow. And that is a critical shift that you need to understand that will create success in an education and in even a career environment typically will create stagnation and stalling in a business. It's a very, very different type of industry. So you have to unlearn all of these things that you have probably utilized up until this point to be extremely successful within your professional or educational career. So we need to understand that that is the situation that a lot of us have experienced. Because of that, in our brains, in moments where and this also is Carol Dweck, if you guys are interested in the psychology behind it, she has done a lot of research on what creates success for people. And we've also realized within our workplace, we don't just need mindless, or not like mindless, but like we don't just need perfectionist action takers. We actually need to create thinkers and we need to create problem solvers in our society. So our school system has literally shifted to being very failure focused, to allowing students to learn from their mistakes, because we now realize that it's creating the businesses and the um, economy of our future is really by the people who are getting ahead are the fastest are the people who are willing to promote and make change, people who are willing to learn from failures and adapt. And literally, our education system is changing because of it. We just didn't have that. Most of the people who are listening to this podcast at this point did not have that growing up. And it totally makes sense as to why your brain is failure and change averse. And so, what we need to do, Mindset Work by Carol Dweck, her book is literally called Mindset. It talks about how, as human beings, you can have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. A fixed mindset is very much in the way that she describes it, is that it determines that like I either can or I can't do something. And it's very limited in the way that you view yourself as being somebody who can learn and adapt and grow. So like I am bad with technology. I'm not good with marketing. I don't like being on social media. All of these thoughts are a fixed mindset thought that will keep you stuck within your business. In order for you to be successful within business, you have to be willing to learn all of the new things that happen within your business. You have to be willing to change the way that you market to make sure you fit the needs of your business. And that's the kind of businesses that are succeeding the fastest. That is a growth mindset. Like, okay, I can learn technology. I am willing to try new things with social media. I am open to changing the way that I view certain things. Those are the thoughts of successful business owners, and that those are growth mindset thoughts. So if you notice your brain creating limiting beliefs about yourself and within your business, like I can or I can't do something, I want to offer a bridge for that is like I can't yet, but I'm willing to learn. I can't yet, but I'm willing to try. Noticing those thoughts about yourself and those limiting beliefs is going to be the first step in you becoming someone who's more successful with your business because it's developing a growth mindset, which makes you more adaptable and willing to change. So that's the first piece of succeeding faster is creating a growth mindset. The second thing so that's kind of like a logical perspective. Let's take it back to a subconscious level. So what I talked about last week in talking about like creating good mindset cycles within your business, and I talked about it about how to get out of a funk. If you want to look at, I think it was episode 117. Within that, I spoke about how the human brain used to be scared of physical dangers, and in order to for our human brains to evolve, is some of those physical dangers were brought about by emotional causes. If you failed, got rejected, or were abandoned from the community in a tribal mentality, you literally were excommunicated from resources and you died. That's literally how it used to work. So, understanding that, we want to understand that your nervous system actually rejects failure, abandonment, and rejection with the same validity as physical danger, because in the past, it literally did create physical dangers for human beings. So, what you want to do is you want to notice that and be like, okay, I notice that my brain is trying to avoid emotional danger with the same validity as physical danger. And I want to regulate my nervous system in order to create the positive change and failure tolerance I need to succeed. So, in the worksheet, I'm going to include an image of what is called the polyvagal theory. And I'm going to give you a very oversimplified version of this. Obviously, I'm not a psychologist or a neuroscientist, but I think these concepts will help you. And within the polyvagal theory, what happens is your brain actually has an arousal temperature gauge that I want you to think about. And when your brain is in a creating an emotional safe place, it's in what's called the ventral vagal zone. This is when you're calm, you're curious, you're open, and this is the place where most of us will create the most success, the best ideas, the most creative problems, solutions to problems. And that's where you want to stay for the majority of time within your business. However, what happens is if your brain and your nervous system has literal neurons that are in your brain called neuroceptors. And if they start to perceive those emotional dangers, like we talked about, it's going to create these responses, which you probably have heard of, the fight, flight, freeze, fawn responses. It creates an actual arousal indicator within your nervous system, which activates your sympathetic nervous system. It's going to create this arousal that makes you think, okay, I am now noticing that my body is feeling nervous. It is feeling worried, anxious, concern, fear, panic, irritation, anger, rage. And those things happen because your brain feels like there's a threat. So if you are failing in your business, your brain will most likely, instead of being able to curiously and compassionately, openly problem solve, notice that what happens is your brain is going to increase your emotional stimulus state, and it's going to create a sympathetic response. And you want to go in and you want to notice that, and you want to regulate and deactivate your nervous system in those moments. You can co-regulate with another person. That's what I do with my clients on coaching calls, is I'm co-regulating with them. Or you can self-regulate and start to learn what kind of things you can do to deactivate your nervous system before you get into what's called the dorsal vagal, where you're in a freeze response and you are actually not doing anything at all. You feel helpless. You go from I can do this, but I'm uncomfortable, to I can't. And if you want to succeed faster within your business, you want to make sure that you're going through and actually focusing on the things that move you and your business forward. And that means that we want to make sure that you don't get into that dorsal vagal zone. You want to make sure that you're getting into out of that learned helplessness feeling an emotion, so you don't shut down, you actually move forward and you don't feel trapped, and you're able to deactivate yourself either through self-regulation or co-regulation. And what I do is I am the kind of person who wants to push my clients to the best of their ability to expand their capacity to experience failure, of course, but then also grow within their businesses and lives. And so for me, I think it's really important to understand these things. And sometimes I push my clients and we find out what their threshold is, and we learn how to regulate, activate, regulate, and then get them moving forward. So what you want to do is you want to be able to understand the polyvagal theory, which helps you with your sympathetic nervous system. You want to understand your logical prefrontal cortex and be able to create that growth mindset, like I talked about with Carol Dweck, that is your prefrontal cortex helping you. Because what happens is when your emotions are high, what happens is your intelligence is low because your brain literally cuts off blood flow from your prefrontal cortex, which is a logical decision-making part of your brain, and it literally can't solve problems. So in order to be more successful, you have to be able to regulate yourself, think clearly, get into that fixed mindset, and then we do what we call data versus drama. So I help my clients regulate. We understand how to create a fixed growth mindset. And then, in order to get them succeeding faster, what I do is I have them, whenever they experience a failure, we do data versus drama. We get clear on what are the circumstances of this trial and what were the actual results from it. Did we sign a certain number of clients? Did we get a certain number of consults? What were the actions that you took in order to create this result? And we get very analytical from it. Whenever my client, and sometimes it involves us processing their emotions ahead of time, feel free to go back to the last episode about when you're in a funk, what to do. And that podcast will really help you. So you want to be able to go through and think, okay, here, I'm getting into the data. I'm actually figuring out what are the things that I want to change and logically move forward within my business. How can I actually go through and make this something that's going to be more productive? And that is what is going to help you succeed faster. I have all of my clients every single month in the mastermind. They actually fill out a monthly evaluation form where they have a goal that they're working towards. And in Five Figure Foundation, I encourage people to put their goals in the chat during our group calls. But what we do from there is we have them go through and they say, hey, here's what my goal is. Did I hit? One of three things is going to happen. Every month when you have a goal, you're either going to miss, hit, or exceed that goal. You just want to learn and grow from that. That is what it's going to make you successful faster. I will include all of these documents within the worksheet that goes along with this episode. But in order to succeed faster, you have to manage your subconscious, conscious mind, and learn and grow quickly. And I know that you are going to be creating your own success cycles through this plan. You are going to figure out how to manage your mind and your subconscious so that you can move forward and succeed. And I can't wait to see you in the next episode of the Solopreneur Academy Podcast so soon.
Did you know that 89% of people need to see a testimonial in order to buy? Get my free testimonial template using the link in the show notes, and you'll see exactly how I used testimonials to market my business as it grew to 120K in my first year full-time and multiple six figures every year after that. Thank you so much again for listening, and I can't wait to see you on the next episode of the Solopreneur Academy Podcast.